Hello there, my name is Julie and you are watching Treasures Made from Yarn. This video I am giving you an update on my temperature projects. We are in a new month, so I thought I'd show you my progress for January. And if you may notice, I'm at the desk that I do my tutorials at, because I thought maybe you can get now a closer look at some of the stitches, and probably more so in my temperature blanket than with this project, because this is now my crochet scarf. All this is the moss stitch, and to remind you, I'm using a size E hook for that, and they are 38 stitches across. Now I can probably now show the dimensions more that I got it going. So it's about 6 inches here. Flip it over. 16 centimeters. And okay, I'm gonna try to get a little closer here. Now I am up to date on this blanket, so it's already, today's February 2nd, so I already have that up to then. But it's pretty much about 5.5 inches long for the month of January. And now that I was initially thinking that this scarf was going to be longer than 60 inches, but I think this might be on point to be a 60-inch long scarf. So one other things that I have noticed is that you're probably having it's not well defined as much to see where the temperature changes is happening, because if you, for example, this was for the 20s, I use this for the 20s. Well, here are the 30s. Well, this is green and there's some green in this. So, and then for my 40s, there's blue. Both of these have blue. So it's kind of hard to clearly define where I know it started the 40s and the 30s, and then the 50s were distinctly yellow, but you know, there's yellow in my 40s one too. You can kind of see where we have these orange section. That's when I was on my cruise. But even then, you probably have a hardest time of like, okay, when was the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, back in the 70s? So it's all kind of blending together. So I don't know, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you wanted to see the distinct temperatures, it's not quite working out, but I still think it's cute, and I think it'll look cool when it's all said and done. So that is my crochet temperature. It's not a blanket, it's a scarf. And for now, I think right now I haven't done any of the ends because I'm contemplating keeping the ends kind of as fringe. I do hope I have enough yarn in the end to do a border, and I'll probably do the border in the final color in December, whatever the temperature is, December 31st, or I might use the color that has the most yarn. I could potentially use it for when January 1st was. I don't know, I'll play it. As always, I play everything by ear. But for sure, I want to put a border on it when it's in. But you know, in a year's time, I might just change my mind and go through the process of sewing in the ends. All right, time to go on to my knitted temperature blanket. There we are. Okay, right now I am still a couple days behind on this one. I am casting off for January. But what I'm going to do, sometimes what I usually do, instead of using the needle, I am casting off with a crochet hook. And this is always a hit and miss which size crochet hook to use. I went with a J because it looks, at least in the neck part, it looks similar. So I'm using a J hook, and so far I got most of it done already. And it looks like it's working out. So I'm going to finish off just to show, and I want to show you how we're doing this, how to cast off. I'm going to cast off with the crochet hook. You're pretty much casting off like you would with knitting needles. I'm using the crochet hook to get in here. It might be a little difficult to get in here and actually knit like you were to actually knit. Oh no. Oops. I lost a stitch. Oh no. You know what? I could do this too. Like that. And like you would in crochet or like a knit. Slip that over. Now, I never thought of that, just putting it on. But yeah, I'm knitting with the crochet hook and bringing that over. And I found this. This to me could be slightly easier because sometimes it's frustrating with knitting needles to pull that over. But no, I'm kind of starting to get, now that we're knitting for a while, I'm kind of getting more familiar with some of the stuff. I think the main thing I'm getting out of this month so far is that I've gotten more comfortable to do the purl stitch like it's traditionally done. You probably would not, you would have to see, I will link that video to how I knit. So I did a video on how I knit. So, but in sense, I had taught myself to knit looking through magazines because YouTube didn't exist at the time. So how I did the stockinette stitch is that I would knit through the back loop, and then to do the purl, I would put the needle in, and instead of throwing it over like it usually is done, I would pick it up from underneath. And for the stockinette stitch, that kind of worked out. But it's not easy to do that method when you have to do special stitches, because one day I had come across a pattern that said to knit through the back loops, and I was confused. Unfortunately, at that time, YouTube was out, so I went onto YouTube, went to look to see how to knit through the back loops, and after I watched it, I was kind of going, that's how I normally knit anyway. So I immediately went to find the how I knit, how to knit the knit stitch, and then that's when I realized that instead of going through the back loop, you knit through the front loop like that. And I'm going, oh yeah, I've been doing it wrong all this time. So that's what so pretty much out of it so far, that's what I've gotten out of so far this month, is that I'm getting more familiar when doing the purl stitch is to like kind of throw it. I guess, I don't know if that's the correct term. You can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I've gotten used to doing it like it's more traditionally done. And then you've probably now noticed that my yarn, like I crochet, is in my left hand. And I also semi-learned like very recently that I guess when you knit, it's supposed to be in the other hand. And I know I can't now contemplate doing it that way. So I guess holding the yarn in this hand is the continental method of knitting. And that's what I do. So if you are a crocheter, it might be easier to knit the continental method. And if you find that you're having a hard time, you can't knit with the yarn in the other hand, then I suggest you maybe try the continental method of knitting. So I'm almost done here, so I'm going to finish up casting off my January blanket, and then I will be back with you in just a moment. Okay, I have moved the blanket out onto my the floor, so you can get maybe an overall view of how this blanket turned out. And to show you the dimensions, I have 22 inches going across. Closer look, 22 inches. Okay, and the length of this blanket turned out to be 29 inches. high. Okay, long across horse. I can't think right now. It is 29 inches from top to bottom. Okay, I have moved the blanket back now to my tutorial desk. So I thought maybe you might want to see some close-ups on some of these stitches from each day of the month. So I thought I'd just go slowly bring down here. This is my favorite, right here. One of my favorites so far is this rib stitch. And I do believe I have a knitted hat tutorial, not a video, but just a written instructions utilizing this stitch. So I will leave the link for that pattern in the description. Just going through this here. This row right here was my birthday, and I was not a fan of this. This was making bubbles, and I was not a fan of that. Okay, now we're suddenly getting into these corals and pinks. Why, that was when I was on my cruise. So I have a cable here. So a lot of stuff was open. And again, then now we come across this again. Was pattern was like what, 16, 18 rows. This might be, I like this is a form of a chevron using the purl and knit. This to me has potential for projects in the future because I always like knit projects that look similar or the same on both sides. So yeah, now all of a sudden we're back into purples and greens. That means we're back from our vacation. So then I run into, I think the last couple days ago, I ran into cables. So I have 3 cables. I mean, that was my decision to make 3 cables on the blanket. I could have potentially only did 1, but yeah, all of a sudden I did cables, which was, hey, 4-stitch cable, a 6-stitch cable, and an 8-stitch cable. And then we're back to open work for a while. And then we are back to, and then we ended with a 16-row stitch pattern. As then you can see now all of a sudden I got the only blue and teal here. The blue and teal color. We had a cold spell, and that was in January. So that is just what it says. I wanted to show you a close-up of my stitches. Now that my January is now casted off and it's done, it is time to start February's blanket. So instead of the long tail cast on, I'm going to try by making the chain, making a chain and then knitting into a chain. So I will see how that works out. This is kind of new territory for me too, because if you know anything about I use long tail cast on, you would need a long tail like it says, but if you knit a while, you might know approximately how long to make your tail. To me, that's always a hit and miss, because sometimes I didn't make my tail long enough, and then I have to tear out the whole project and start over. So I want to, sometimes I'm into, maybe that's the one I'm familiar with, but sometimes I would like to try, so I don't have to figure out the long tail method. Usually one of the best ways for other projects for long tail is that if you have 2 balls of yarn in the same color, one ball of yarn would be your long tail, and then the other yarn would be your main for casting, for actually casting on and starting knitting. So anyway, I digress. I'm going to knit my last one. I cast it on 100, so I will knit, make a chain of 100, and then I will let you know. And then I'm going to try knitting into these little stitches. Definitely not the back hump, but I will knit into this one, and I will let you know in a minute how that turns out. Alright, I made my crochet chain of 100 stitches. I did a quick comparison of how long it was, or how wide, I'm sorry, how wide it was, and it looked like the chain went a little bit longer, but I already figured this blanket's going to be a hodgepodge, so but we will see how that goes. Considering that there are only 28 days in this month, my blanket may or may not be as long as January's, and I'm figuring that with all the months that they're probably going to be varying in how long they all are, again depending on how many days in the month and the number of rows each pattern stitch for each day is. You know, I might have a month where it only has 1 or 2 rows per pattern, or I know there's some days that might go up to like 20 or something, and or 16. And I am looking at February's already. I have 12 rows for February 1st. But so pretty much all I'm doing at this point is establishing my knit row. So I'm just going to insert my needle. I'm going to put my hook in it. I'm going to skip this first stitch because I think if I put it in there, it's not going. So I'm skipping the first stitch. I'm just inserting my knitting needle, and we'll see how that goes, and just drawing up a loop. And we're doing that across. And that may not be so bad, because my plan is with each one. On Amazon, I had bought another skein of Premier Basic, and that color is going to be chocolate. So I should be receiving that within a week or so. So my plan is to actually put a crochet border around all my blankets in the chocolate color I ordered. So I'm going to be doing a single crochet around that. So it might make it easier to do my single crochet in the other side of the chain. We'll see how that goes. So I am going, there we are. I think that's working out. We'll see how it looks once I start my pattern, but I'm kind of liking this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do all my knitting projects that way, but that would mean I would have to try to find the right gauge crochet hook with the needle. So I'm going to make a mental note for the J hook with these knitting needles, which if I remember are a size 8. So mental note to that. So I am going to finish off casting on for January and proceed with January. So, and I think I pretty much am going to end my video here. So to tell you what other upcoming videos I have coming up, probably almost immediately after this video is going to be my Stash Down 2023 video, which is hosted by Queen's Crafts by Bridget. So that video will be coming out. I can also refer to it as Shop My Stash, because pretty much that's what I'm doing. Shop My Stash 2023. And I got that hashtag from Mad Mimi's Crochet and Farming. So that could be like a 2-in-1 type hashtag video. What I also got coming up is my very first knitted sock tutorial. Yep, there we are. That's my first sock done. I have that tutorial coming out. I'm hoping to come out very soon with that one. Let's see, do I have my other sock? I have already filmed up to having to start decreasing the toe. So all I got left to do is show you how to do the Kirchner stitch. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But the only thing I got to film yet is how to close up the top. After I'm done with that, then obviously I have to film my intro and outro for that video. And I hope to have that out either this week, by the end of this week, or next week. Today's already Thursday. So that I'm hoping to have out pretty soon because that's a long video. So what else coming up, what I have coming up, Armchair Chef is doing her monthly mystery yarn challenge, and I am in for February. So expect videos for that challenge coming up. And of course I have my weekly whip video coming up. In that video you can see how far I've gotten into February's temperature blanket. And the overall goal is to attach all these individual blankets together. That won't be till almost the end of the year. Well, actually, that will be the end of the year. I might wait till the end of the year to attach them all, so I can like lay them out, because like they're all going to be different sizes and that, as I mentioned earlier. And I'll lay them out, figure out the best way to attach them. But that's a year down almost. That's not till the end of the year. So I digress. Enough babbling from me. I want to thank you for watching my video. I always appreciate it when you guys take your time to watch my video. I am sitting right now at about 860 subscribers. Thank you. I think there was a point where I didn't think I was ever going to reach that milestone, to get that far, but I am about 100. That means about 140 away from that first milestone of 1,000. So hopefully within the next couple months, or sooner, if you share this with your friends, other yarny friends. But I still have a long ways to go to get monetized. I still have way more watch hours to get before I can even think about getting monetized. But that's okay. So again, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye now.